Mike's Daily Podcast.
Episode 1424. 1424. Isn't that when Gulliver set out across the ocean to discover America? Do I have some of that, or at least part of that right? Is it Columbus? Columbus salami? That's some good stuff right there. Hey, welcome to the Café Anyway.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Anyway,
I am here to do a show, a podcast, if you will, which I have been doing for nary on many years.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
I will say I've been doing this since 2009, and if you agree with that, then everything is fine. But if you don't, I'll have to put up my dukes. When I was in college, I used to shout, "No dukes!" And I, for a short time, was involved
Mike's Daily Podcast
with the resistance. And that meant I gave some money
Mike's
to a
Daily
anti-podcast nuclear war club, because I thought that was something I could get behind.
I'm now back to being an activist citizen and part of the resistance.
You know, I think that was Hillary. And we're going to have Chely Shoehart, Floyd the Floorman, John Deere the engineer stop by, and today we will get to a news segment. I think we will call this Fair and Unbalanced. That's what we'll do this. I'll write that down so I don't forget. And I had some beer yesterday. Oh, look who walked in.
Hello, my God, this is Chely Shoehart, the Gift Supervisor. You had some beer?
I had some wonderful beer with a guy that... Speaking of beer, we had to dance a little beer jig just then. That was fun.
you darn tootin'.
Yeah, it was... oh, look who else walked in.
Hello, Mike. I make the root beer.
Thank you for coming in and bringing root beer.
Oh, boy.
What else do we have? Somebody else walked in, too. Oh, Mike, this is Floyd the Floorman! Oh, my God, that was loud.
Busted eardrums.
And this is John Deere, the engineer. Yeah, so you had some beer yesterday. I did. It was wonderful with a guy that I used to work with named Kevin. He used to do this thing called Addendum with Kevin. It was a lot of fun. We used to do it here on the show. We didn't record one yesterday.
And here's today's podcast picture.
Because when I go see him and I go have some beer, he is very busy serving all these people. And so I don't really get to talk to him very much. But it was good to see him. And I had 3 different beers. I have pictures of all of them here today in the podcast picture. No, I don't. I had, let's see. I had this beer called...
Beer.
It was called a Great Scott. Great Scott! Great Scott beer, because it had Scott whiskey, or Scottish ale in it. Yeah. Scotch and ale? It was a Scotch ale. That's what it was. And then I also had a blood red orange beer. That was refreshing. The Scotch ale, Great Scott, knocked me on my tuchus. And then the first one I had, though, was this wonderful beer that I've had before. It's called Toaster Pastry, but they got this brand new version. And oh my gosh, so good.
Go, go, go.
Sorry, I had to do a little dancing.
Are you out of your mind?
You know what? This is Mike's Daily Podcast, and I can do what I dang well want to pleased to do. I also walked Basil the Boxer. We walked down to the bay, and that's a nice round, let's see, from there to the bay and back was about 4 miles, so my legs are a little tired today. And I also woke up in the middle of the night with a nasty stomach ache. So I don't think I should drink that much beer, basically. I'm very much a lightweight. But yeah, we walked down there, and the podcast picture is not from that walk, but one of the other times we've walked down to the bay, Basil the Boxer and I, this is over at Hayward Regional Shoreline, near Winton, if you know where that is, in Hayward. And and we walked around there one time. This was just a few weeks ago, so got a nice picture of him and all of his gray glory. He's turning gray. I would say prematurely gray, because he's only going to be 9 next month. I mean, come on, that's nothing in dog years. They can go till 15, can't they? I hope so, anyway. So, anyway, Café Anyway. We walked down there and then came back, and there was this guy from Boston we started talking to. Kevin loved this guy from Boston. He had driven a truck. This guy, older than me, somewhere in his maybe late 50s, smoked like a chimney. No, he was on fire, basically. What? No, he was smoking outside of the establishment quite a bit. But he told us all about how he makes beer at home. Actually, not beer. I think hard liquor. He made moonshine. That's right. He made moonshine at home. And not scotch.
I love scotch. Scotch has got scotch. Here it goes down into my belly.
You got to please her. You got to tease her. You got to do. So, yeah, he made the really strong stuff. He was talking about that, and he loved petting Basil. He goes, your dog reminds me of my dog that I had to leave home back in Boston, and I can't do a good Boston accent. It's wicked good out there. And he was talking to us, and he was dropping the F-bombs left and right, because they do a lot of that there. F-bomb there and there. So he was telling us a lot of the interesting stories about Boston and making his illegal booze. And yeah, we had a good time with that. So that was yesterday. But today is a different day. And there was some kind of a speech done last night in Arizona. I don't know. So we'll get to that and Fair and Unbalanced. Mike'sDailyPodcast.com is where all the ballast is to hold down the show and to make you a wonderful person. There's, we're a ship, and we have to have ballast to keep us, otherwise we tip over and we're gone. And we don't want to do that, because we got to keep going and moving ahead. Mike'sDailyPodcast.com is where you can check out all the past shows, past interviews, podcast pictures as well, all at Mike'sDailyPodcast.com, and help out the show through the Amazon link. Click and buy whatever it is you're going to buy on Amazon, and that makes us happy. And there's also a picture, too, of me with Basil the Boxer, I'm sure, somewhere on the site. And there's also the PayPal if you'd like to help us out. That way you get a special greeting from all the Café Anyway characters. And you'll become an inglorious Mike's Daily Podcaster. All if you go to Mike'sDailyPodcast.com is where you can find all that stuff. And now let's get to the segment called
Fair and Unbalanced.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has ordered more solid fuel rocket engines as he pursues nuclear and missile programs amid a standoff with Washington. But there were signs of tension easing, according to Reuters. The report carried by the KCNA news agency lacked the traditionally robust threats against the U.S. after weeks of unbridled acrimony, and U.S. President Donald Trump expressed optimism about a possible improvement in relations. In fact, Trump said at that rally in Phoenix yesterday, I've been to Phoenix. In fact, I was in Phoenix 8 years ago, almost to the day. No. Whatever. It was a wonderful experience. We were there for like 48 hours and got the hell out. But yeah, it looks like they've got a nice little park section, and it gets really hot, and there's basically no plants. They're just succulents everywhere. I respect the fact that he is starting to respect us, said Trump. The women, I remember, were hot in Phoenix. That's one thing I take note of. And maybe, probably not, but maybe something positive can come about, said Trump. Trump also said at this wonderful big old thing in Phoenix yesterday that he threatened to shut down the government over border wall funding. Because, he wants to build a wall.
I would build a great wall, and nobody builds walls better than me, believe me. And I'll build them very inexpensively.
Border wall funding. He will shut down the government over that. And he said the North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA, is likely to be terminated, and signaled that he was prepared to pardon former Arizona Sheriff Joe Arpaio, who is an anathema to the Latino community. Trump's freewheeling comments came during a boisterous campaign rally, during which he went on an extended diatribe about the media. He hates the media, hates us so much, blaming reporters for the negative fallout he has received over his responses to the hate-fueled violence in Charlottesville. Yes, he was saying, hey, I said I don't like Nazis. Why do they keep saying I like Nazis? So Arpaio was convicted last month of criminal contempt for ignoring a federal judge's order to stop detaining people because he merely suspected them of being undocumented immigrants. A major Trump supporter during last year's campaign, he awaits sentencing. So is Sheriff Joe convicted for doing his job? He asked the crowd, you know what? I'll make a prediction. I think he's going to be just fine, okay? But I won't do it tonight because I don't want to cause any controversy. But Sheriff Joe should feel good. So that was the big question. Is he going to do it today? Yesterday? Was he going to do it yesterday? And he obviously didn't, but he will at some point. It stretched over an hour, this speech, and I'm not going to talk anymore about it. I think you got the gist. But there was afterwards, police fired pepper spray to disperse protesters outside a rally. Outside the rally. There were protesters there, and they had to do pepper spray. No. But Melania wants to thank Chelsea Clinton because she launched a plea to the media to keep Melania's son Barron out of negative coverage. Thank you, Chelsea Clinton. So important to support all of our children in being themselves, Melania wrote. Clinton, the only child of Bill and Hillary, defended President Trump's youngest son, arguing he should be left alone to be a child after the conservative Daily Caller criticized Barron for his casual dress while boarding Air Force One on Sunday. Chelsea Clinton. And you know, yeah, back to the people, the protesters were throwing rocks and bottles at the police. I am against that. No. I hate that about protesters throwing crap. Back to Google. What? We weren't even talking about Google, Mike. All right, well, let's talk about Google for just a split second. They've been in the news a lot lately. They did their Oreo thing yesterday or the day before during the eclipse. But now they have removed more than 500 Android apps from the Google Play Store marketplace after it was discovered advertising software used by the apps could be exploited and used to install spyware on handsets. No! That's a big no. No, don't do that. I don't want spyware on my handset. Putting users at risk was a software developed kit called L-Jexin, I think is how you pronounce that, developed by a Chinese company to perform targeted advertising services. The software development kit, or SDK, was vulnerable to being used by attackers to sneak malware onto Android devices. L-Jexin was spotted by mobile security firm Lookout, which found the SDK active in more than 500 apps made available through Google's official marketplace. They didn't note the specific apps found to be using the vulnerable advertising software, but the firm did note it was found in a game targeted to teens, which had as many as 100 million downloads, as well as a weather app, a photo editing app, which as many as 5 million downloads, and internet radio app with 1 million users. Other affected apps included those in the category of education, health, and fitness. So Google's taking those off. As we go outside of Café Anyway, we're bringing you Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcastro Valley. Let's see, is there a link to where you can see what all those are that they took off? Well, International Business Times had the articles, so if you want to go there and find out more about that. But that's pretty much the show today. I'd like to thank you for being my ballast. And I hope I wasn't too unballasted today. But whatever. I need to end the show.
I'm taking a breather. Sorry.
Yeah, we're going to wrap it up.
It's time to stop, okay?
So thank you for listening to the show. Next show, we'll have Benita, the Disgruntled Fiddle Player, and the Brewmaster. Should I keep doing the show?
No more.
Okay, we're done.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at mikesdailypodcast.com.
Email Mike now at mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com.
See you tomorrow. Bye!